This episode is brought to you by Springbrook Autism Behavioral Health, where compassionate care meets clinical excellence. Located in scenic South Carolina, Springbrook is a world-class behavioral health center dedicated exclusively to treating children, teens, and young adults with autism. Their multidisciplinary team specializes in customized treatment plans that support every individual's unique needs, challenges, and strengths. They focus on safely structure and success. Springbrook helps families navigate the complexities of autism with hope and confidence. Whether you're looking for inpatient services, diagnostics, or specialized therapy, Springbrook is here to help your children thrive. To learn more, visit springbrookbehavioral.com and discover why families across the country trust Springbrook to be part of their journey. Hey guys, and welcome back to All Abilities and No Filter. I'm Jake, and as always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend it with us for our next unfiltered conversation. And in today's episode, I had the opportunity to sit down with Paul Voss. He's a father of 8, that's right, I said 8, whose life changed dramatically when his youngest child was diagnosed with autism. Like many parents, Paul thought he was prepared for the chaos, but nothing prepared him for the exhaustion, isolation, and the survival mode parenting that followed. Instead of accepting that constant burnout was just how it is, Paul went searching for real, livable solutions. That journey led him to write Autism Sucks, Finding Hope in the Chaos, a brutally honest look at parenting through autism, ADHD, and overwhelm without sugarcoating the hard parts. Paul brings a rare father's perspective, practical changes that actually work in real families, and a message that exhausted parents desperately need to hear. You're not alone, and it doesn't have to stay this hard. So sit back, relax, and I hope you guys enjoy the conversation. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, and welcome back to All Abilities, No Filter. I'm Jake, and Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show and joining us to share your story and your experiences. We know our listeners are going to benefit from a lot you have to say, and I'm just excited to talk with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Really excited.
No, we're looking forward to it. So if you don't mind, just kind of give our listeners just a little backstory of what kind of brought you on here, wanting to be part of the show.
Sure. And I love what you're doing. I think the podcast genre in general is super helpful for parents. And I'll talk about why, but I'm a father of 8. My youngest was diagnosed with autism through a little over 3 years ago. And at the time, I knew nothing about autism. I would say it was kind of a perfect storm for me and my family overall. My mom had been diagnosed with schizophrenia way earlier in my life. So from the time I was about 5 on, and had been in an institution. And during COVID, things took a turn for the worse. She was already in an institution, but it got worse. And her social worker had started sending me a lot of paperwork about what they were doing and the treatments they were giving her. And I remember like reading through the paperwork and thinking, like, why is she on all this? She couldn't even use a vending machine. Like, why is she on all this medication? Like, what is it doing for her? Around the same time, I had listened to a podcast where I heard that the keto diet can actually help people with schizophrenia. And I remember just sitting there and just thinking, like, wow, like I never knew that my whole life. It also helps people with epilepsy. My brother had epilepsy. And then our youngest, well, I'll tell you, COVID hit our house around January of 2022. And hit me and my wife pretty hard. My other 7 kids were not really impacted. They were sick for like a day, but our youngest, we noticed a decline in sleep and literally waking up. Well, couldn't get her to go to bed, first of all. And then we had her waking up every 2 hours. As that year progressed, 2022, we noticed she wasn't speaking yet. And so we decided we should get speech therapy. And I do live in Connecticut. There's a program called Birth to 3 where they send a therapist out. I kind of thought something was wrong, but also I think having 7 kids is amazing, but I would say the downside to having 7 kids is you really learn that like kids develop at their own age, right? So like I probably was not as worried about developmental delays by the time we got to our 8th, just because you worry so much and then it clicks and they're fine. So that could have delayed the diagnosis a little bit, but the therapist came out and at the first meeting, she said right away, have you ever had her tested for autism? And it hit me and my wife pretty hard overall. There is a time frame here, at least at that time, between when you want to get tested and when you can actually get a test done.
Mhm.
And we ended up getting the test, came back that she had autism. And right away we knew, after the stuff with my mom and just learning about, diet changes can help, we knew right away we wanted to explore other options to help her. And it really sent me on a journey to help heal her. And so I had an idea for a book. I started writing it. And when I initially started writing it, it was just going to be like, what are the things that showed immediate progress? Like, we did it. We know it helped her. Things like grounding or earthing, the concept where if you walk around barefoot, you feel better. The ground has natural energy in it. We bought her a grounding mattress pad for her bed. Literally the first night she got 6 hours of sleep. And I'm like,
Wow.
I wish I knew, those are things that I wish I knew when we were waking up every 2 hours and, losing our temper, getting frustrated. But as I was writing the book, I started to realize like, hey, it's not all bad. There's actually been really positive things that have come out of this for our whole family. The diet, we did make dietary changes,
Mhm.
not immediately, but small, like started gluten-free, dairy-free, and then moved to like non-processed foods, but had amazing impacts on my other kids.
For sure.
Ironically, my oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD, and we did try the standard Adderall treatment for
Mhm.
him. He did start talking about suicide pretty quickly after we put him on it.
Mhm.
So we pulled him off of it, met with his pediatrician. That was her guidance, get him off it immediately. And the diet changes actually ended up impacting him where he's no longer on his IEP at school
Wow.
and he's an honor student. So it was just, I initially wanted to write the book to say, like, here's 6 things we did that showed immediate impact and
Mhm.
helped us. But again, as I was writing it, I started to realize, whoa, there's a lot of other benefits that have come out of this for my whole family. So hopefully give other parents some hope that are maybe, waking up every 2 hours that there can be good things that come out of this diagnosis as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to backtrack to the 8-kid thing because I have to ask. I mean, are you just to hate sleeping, want to see how long you can go without sleeping, or just completely advert to it? So I applaud you with the 8 kids, but I know that's just got to be, like I said, everything else aside. How do you manage that? That's just, I mean, you got almost a starting football team offense right there in your own house. Like, how do you and your wife manage, even before your youngest came along, or even before autism was even introduced in your family? How do you manage that big of a responsibility? That just, I mean, parents have every job in the world, so just enlighten me on that experience with that.
Yeah, and I will say the hardest for us was going 2 to 3 because I felt like that was where you have to get a bigger car because they were all close in age too.
Sure.
So there's about 18 months apart. And really going from 2 to 3 was the hardest for us because we did have to make a lot of changes around, getting a bigger car when you go out to eat. It's, just everything is really easier when it's 4 or less. But we really tried to teach them to be independent.
Mhm.
So put a lot on them, like, you have to pack your own lunch for school. Um, you know, we're at a point now where our oldest is 17, so they really help out with the younger
Sure.
kids. But a lot of it's just pushing through it, to be honest. Like I don't have a good answer. It's just, this is what we have to do. I will
Oh
tell
man.
you, with our eighth, I was really excited because I'm like, I actually felt like I've got parenting down. Like I'm gonna be such a great dad. Like all the mistakes I've learned from, and it was just funny because it totally was a 180 from what I was expecting.
That's
So
what, I mean, I mean, you are the definition of what trial and error can look like. You've had a lot of
yeah,
attempts to get it right and that. And then, because I grew up in a family of 5 kids. So we had 4 boys and 1 baby sister. And I saw the exhaustion on my parents' face. And we're kind of like the same. We're pretty close in age, but adding another 3, y'all are, kudos to you guys. That is amazing. My little brother just had his second, and his first is now 2, and they had their second about 3 months ago. and all he talks about is how much sleep he doesn't get anymore. And so what y'all, I mean, like I said, y'all are on another level with that. But so when your youngest came in, I know you had 7 before. So obviously you got to learn 7 personalities, 7 sets of strengths and weaknesses, likes and dislikes. And because I'm sure they all have their own wonderful personalities, but then you have this one come around who just neurologically is going to be different, like completely rewired. What were kind of the first things y'all kind of saw that you were like, okay, this one's going to be maybe a little different than the first 7, or we're going to have to go a different route? What were kind of the things you and your wife kind of noticed?
It's kind of funny. Like we were actually done at 7. I had an appointment to get a vasectomy
Yeah.
2 days before. My wife is like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, let's think about it." And I didn't need to be talked out of it, so we actually canceled. So I always find that funny because and she was born during COVID, so peak COVID in Connecticut. We actually got induced because there was a lot of talk about hospitals not letting dads in, or if you had a fever, you couldn't go in. So we had kind of all this paranoia even leading up to her being born of like, is the hospital not going to let me in for her birth? Is something going to come up with, hospitals shutting down? We just didn't know. But she was developing fine until, like I said, around that time when COVID hit our house, we really started to see that decline or change. Some of the things were, it was lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then also her not recognizing me or my wife. So there were 2 examples that like crushed me at the time. And like, now I can look back and it doesn't bother me as much. But one was I was at a lacrosse game for my oldest daughter. It was me and my youngest, May. And she was like running up to another lady like it was her mom. And I'm like, this is so weird. We've never had any of our other kids do that before. And then the second was at an end of year school party for one of my daughters. I brought her in with me. My wife was going, again, coordinating end of year school parties with 8 kids is also hard to do sometimes. But so my wife went to one, I went to the other with my youngest, and she didn't even act like she knew me. She was screaming, didn't want me to hold her, and went to another mom. And I'll tell you, like, you never feel like as low as a dad, like in that situation. And so I started to kind of think something was wrong there. And then the not speaking, like as it just accelerated, I remember before we got her diagnosed, worrying, like, am I ever going to hear her say, I love you? And like that stuff is just, it's hard as a parent.
Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt. We work with, or what I do professionally, working with parents that are brand new to autism, or they have several children with autism, or they have adult children now with autism. That's always so consistent. It doesn't matter if you have, like I said, 3 children on the spectrum and then have the next. They go through the same thing of, how do I know that my child even likes me if they're not telling me? What am I looking for? And we try to tell parents is you may not hear it, but you have to look for the certain things. Do they de-escalate quicker when your presence is around? Do they give those senses of feeling safe? Sometimes when they escalate the quickest and the most severe, it's because they feel comfortable to, or they feel like they're in a safe environment. And so it's kind of contradictory to tell parents, well, if they show out the most for you, that means they probably like you the most. But it is a constant feeling, because it is that way. It's the lack of, I'm going to try my hardest, love this kid as much as I can, but it's okay to be a little selfish and say, well, I want that reciprocated. I want it to know that it's working, and I want that. So I know I couldn't imagine how that stress hits you, but it's just the worry, because it's your kid. You're never going to stop showing them love and wanting them to feel that. But it's okay to look at them or look at someone and say, well, I want to feel it back. Like, that's not making you selfish. That's just making you a dad, wanting to enjoy time with your child. But we try to tell them, just, you got to look, you got to try looking beneath the words, look for the actions that they're doing. They might just look for you just slightly to make sure you're still there. And it's tough.
Yeah, I love that you share that, because I have experience for saying I love you. And it was funny, the timing. So I had I thought I finished my book. And then we were in the kitchen one night and she said, I love you. And it was amazing because she said it twice to me. She hasn't said it since. But what I really learned from that is like it was awesome to hear it from her, but it didn't match up to how she showed me she's loved me over the
Absolutely.
5.5 years. Like the times she'll just come sit on my lap and give me a kiss or just hug me, or like you said, she'll be upset. I go and give her a hug and she calms down.
Hmm.
So she also taught me, I think, a deeper meaning of what love is. And again, it was awesome to hear her say it, but it's it's just words, and
Hmm.
the way she shows us she loves us is so much better.
Oh yeah. I think everybody, my wife, she loves talking about love languages. That's her thing. She likes always figuring out whose is what. And I honestly believe love language it is the most real thing in the autism community because they're going to show it in completely different ways. We work with kids that are extremely vocal about it, extremely vocal about it. And then we have some kids that we work with that's not in their vocabulary, but when they get upset or hitting crisis, they're always looking for that one person. And that's the person they're going to go to. And that it shows it that way, which is, it's something people learn to do. It's like maybe not listen for the words, but watch the very individualized actions is kind of what I'm saying with that. And then plus one thing, like I said, with you and your wife having to adjust to it, but you got 7 other young people there. How did they adjust to having this new presence and this new personality come in to the family?
Yeah, I think it was hard at times for them, so I give them a lot of credit.
Mhm.
There was a period of time where if she was in a room, she didn't want anyone else in it.
Mhm.
And, as parents, we just don't want to hear the screaming, right? Like we want her to be calm. So we're like, hey, can you just leave the room? And I know that's hard on the other kids, but you're just trying to help her and
Mhm.
explain to them that, she's working differently than you are, and she just needs some time alone. So it was hard in general to get them to kind of understand it. I think we're at a better spot now. One of the things we would always try to do is like if we were going somewhere for therapy or to see a specialist, we would try to turn it into a trip. That way they could come and do other things. So like we went to New York City a few times for therapy, would bring them and kind of plan a trip around it. My wife took her to Texas for therapy, like brought some of the kids there. So try to incorporate, and then we try not to let it impact us going to their events. So we try to bring her to as many things as we can, just so she's always there. And I think over time I've seen my kids just become more understanding and more caring. But I'm sure early on there had to be just natural some resentment of, why is she getting all the attention and resources? And so it was a lot of just reminding them like she's different and she needs more than you.
Did you ever find that just, I know you kind of hit on it, just a real challenging point was making sure, especially your younger children are getting the attention, getting the praise that they need. And because I work with parents, they're always very fearful that other siblings are going to be resentful to the ones that need the more attention because of the diagnosis and things like that. Was that ever a concern or maybe something you had to address probably more with your younger children than you do with your older?
Totally. And I've tried to be really intentional about carving out time with them. So, and it's like finding the small moments, right? Like 20 minutes after dinner, just spending time with them, playing a video game with them, playing basketball, just anything. It's really about taking those. I mean, we have 24 hours in a day, so there's always pockets of time. I think you just have to be really intentional about where you're finding that time and giving them attention. But yeah, for our younger ones, like they never have gotten the same level of attention that our older ones got.
Yeah, and it's also individualized. It's just some need more attention to others. We work with families, and you've probably talked to other families where even the physical aggression that comes through low processing and environmental and sensory issues can always play a part too. So I think it's always super important that the siblings get even trained or educated just as much as the parents, because it's kind of like you said, as they get older, they're going to be caretakers for this person too. Even no matter how independent they are, they're always going to feel some type of protectiveness, because that's their younger sibling. That's who they want to protect and they love. And so I always encourage families, it's just as much training as the parents are getting. The younger siblings and the older siblings need to get a level of that too, just to it, so they can understand and relate that. I've talked to siblings before, and sometimes they feel like, oh, they're just choosing to do this, or they're wanting mommy and daddy's attention all the time, but they're not understanding the neurological and the anatomy behind autism. I worked with a family with older and younger siblings, and it really wasn't until we showed them, this is what an autism brain looks like. This is how it fires off. This is the signals, and this is your brain. Then it kind of clicked, where it's like, okay, this is not a behavioral disorder. This is not a behavioral disability. These kids aren't just showing out because they're not getting what they want. It's firing of the brain. It's those sensory issues that are going to be there forever, and they're having to adjust to it. So I think that's awesome that you guys work with your kids too, to kind of understand what's going on. And even speaking more on autism, we know the environment is just so crucial to these kids and this population. And I know with your home of so many people, are there any like environmental changes or anything like that that you guys had to implement into the house, or even in their bedroom, or just particular even physical layouts, or even like that you guys had to make changes with?
There were a lot of changes we made from an environment perspective. Like, so we put a water filter in just to filter water for her. From like moving furniture around, not really, but we did do things like change out the light bulbs. We put an EMF blocker in her bedroom. Mm-hmm. Filter her bath water just to limit what's in the water, because we did do a lot of testing, and she doesn't process things the same way that I do or my other kids do. So just making sure environmentally she's safe. We probably could have done more. Like I said, we probably have bite marks everywhere. There was a period of time where she bit everything. But we were fortunate as far as like safety wise. Like she never really put herself at risk. I mean, she does like jumping off of things, but luckily she doesn't climb up too high. So it's been pretty easy as far as like the physical environment. We have done a lot of things around just protecting her health from an environmental perspective. But that was really more phased over time, just as we learned more about what she needs and what could help her.
That's awesome. It's I've seen some of the coolest things happen. Like I said, I work with a lot of occupational therapists, and they'll show me different rooms they've done. And so like some people, they've gone as they turn their room into a complete sensory playground and things like that, which is wild and crazy. But sometimes when it's that level, they need either a higher level of stimulation or a lower level. It's amazing the perfect fit you got to find when it comes to anything like that. I'm very interested in what you're talking about earlier with the dietary changes you've made. I've always been super interested in that. I would like to say I'm pretty health conscious with that. My wife's in the medical field, so she's very much into taking care of us and things like that. But if you could elaborate a little bit on what dietary changes you made, because we speak with parents that are always looking for the alternatives. Medication scares a lot of people. Scares me. It's anything foreign going in your body. You want to make sure you're looking at any other options you have. But from your firsthand point of view, what were those dietary changes? And if you were able to talk to anybody, why they had the effects they did, or what is behind it, I find that extremely interesting.
Yeah, it's hard too, because we were organic before, and we thought that was kind of enough. But when I did hear about her having a diagnosis, I had a friend who actually had made dietary changes for his son, and his son is actually no longer on the spectrum. So it was pretty interesting to me, just the concept. We decided to go gluten and dairy free initially. And we started there, and then it kind of grew into taking out processed foods. And then, unfortunately, we did some allergy testing, and we found out that our daughter was also allergic to coconut. And a lot of the healthier alternative foods do use coconut oil or coconut sugar. So we've really had to scale back her diet. But overall, as a family, we started gluten-free, dairy-free, and then moved to really eliminating processed foods. It was a long journey for us. We still have one night a week where we do pizza. Like we live in Connecticut, which is a pretty popular area for pizza. Like not gonna, I think it's about finding balance too. I think that's really, really important. And we've seen it with our other kids. Like I said, my oldest son, he was ADHD diagnosed and again, no longer has any accommodations at school as an honor student, but he plays a lot of sports and sometimes he'll go out with his teammates. And I can tell you, like, if he goes to like Chipotle or, Chili's, like we do see behavioral changes in him. It's kind of scary, like how it triggers with him. With our daughter, that kind of played a part in her being able to fall asleep, I think, significantly better and just less frustration. Like I said, we had bite marks literally all over our house
Hmm.
uh, from about maybe a year ago. She was on where she would bite anyone, anything, and we've really seen that go away, uh, just completely, where she doesn't bite anything anymore. But we also monitor her health pretty closely, working with specialists. So we might not have seen a lot of improvements as much on the outside, but her overall like health has gotten significantly better as well. Gut health. She wasn't going to the bathroom sometimes at all during the day. Now she goes twice, 3 times a day. So we've seen improvements there, and that's a part that they have to have
Yeah.
fixed if they're going to continue to heal. So that was probably the biggest improvement overall, though, was just her consistently going to the bathroom, not being bloated. Like
Hmm.
she would be very bloated, have gas, and that's all gone away from diet.
That's yeah, and that affects just their comfortability because it's that low sensory processing or even high sensory processing. I hate feeling bloated and uncomfortable, and then if you throw autism in that, I mean, you're just timesing that by 10 of the uncomfortability of that. So and I think people don't understand or think about that a lot of the times when they are talking about the dietary changes. They're thinking, oh, this is going to change something um, as far as like their how their brains are working or anything like that. It's going to change the anatomy of that, but it's honestly it could be used just to make them more comfortable. Get rid of the bloating, get rid of the constantly feeling tired, things like that. So I'm so glad you kind of brought that up because it can just be it healthier, makes you more comfortable. Um, and I have to ask you, is you brought it up, so I had to ask, is the New Haven pizza worth the hype? Have you like the Sally's,
It
the modern? Is it?
Sally's
I
modern
see it. I see it, and it's on my bucket list to go try because it's. I've had.
Pepe.
Oh yeah, they have a Pete's or a Beats, whatever they call it. They have the imitators down south, but there's just no way it doesn't look nearly as good as what I see. So I'm a huge foodie, so I had to ask that. That's a big bucket list of mine. I read where you said that autism made you kind of confront your own limits. Um, if you could elaborate on that, because I think a lot of dads have have a little bit harder time facing that there's some things you can't control. There's some things that aren't going to fix it when you want to get fixed. I'm a huge control freak. So if I feel like things are out of my control or if I have to adapt to something, I get anxious or uncomfortable. And just kind of like what you meant when you said that autism you had to face your own limits. Kind of elaborate on that.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. I had to really check what I knew about autism and health, preconceived notions I had, and really start researching a lot more on my own. That was really one area because I would take kind of the standard approach to everything, read one article and like or pre yeah, I had preconceived notions. Like a good example was the first specialist we worked with, she had recommended CBD oil. I was
Mhm.
like, no way,
Yeah.
like not doing it. And over time, as I researched more, listened to podcasts and read, my daughter had an issue where we couldn't go anywhere without her wanting to be carried. And I never connected that to anxiety. And eventually we did do the CBD oil. This is where I totally missed out. Like I was just an idiot about it because the first time we gave it to her, she started walking on her own all the time. Another example was melatonin. I was
Mhm.
against that because I thought I don't want to give her something that she'll be dependent on needing to go to sleep. And we ended up doing it and she's not on it anymore. So it was a short period of time where she needed it and came off of it. So it was a lot of the limitations that I'd put around, like just understanding of health, what will help her.
Mhm.
Just learning to be a better advocate for her in everything. A lot of times she did do preschool at our public school, and a lot of times before it would, go along with what they recommend, and starting to learn that like, no, like as a parent, I know better in some cases than what they do, and you need to speak up and share that with them. And then, like you said, around the control thing, I think it's realizing like, look, this is complicated, a lot more complicated than I ever thought it was. And I need to just be happy about incremental small changes and really celebrate those.
Yeah.
And, the big wins are always awesome, but so are all the little small
Mhm.
things that you see and get to experience in life.
Yeah. If you don't, especially working with this population, when you don't celebrate those very small wins, like if we're working with students in their schools or whatever, they go from refusing all programming to they did 3 minutes worth of programming. That's huge. And if you don't treat it as huge, you're going to feel so discouraged and so despaired. And we have fun with when any time we see the smallest victory, we make it the biggest thing in the world. And it also pushes that child. They're going to get excited about it. But you're also filling yourself more with a positive reaction than feeling like you're failing because they're not being able to sit and do 4 hours of school in one day right off the bat like a normal kid would be able to do. Being the dad, though, did you ever feel, or probably still feel, like you have to be the rock all the time? You have to be the non-emotional one. I know a lot of fathers we talk to, they're so afraid to break down. They're so afraid to look to kind of just be like, really just be vulnerable, or just be the one that finally is just so frustrated with things you got to scream every now and then, or just to talk about how frustrated you are. Because a lot of times I think parents feel like if they talk about how frustrated or fed up they are with a situation, then it makes them bad parents. It makes them feel like they don't love their kid. They'll be like, I can't stand the situation I'm in. Not that I don't love my child. I would just wish we were in a different situation. Do you ever feel pressure to just almost be the perfect autism parent sometimes, of being like, we can get through anything and everything's going to be better, but sometimes you just got to scream into a pillow or just say, this situation sucks, or just not be afraid to completely break down?
Totally. And I will tell you, like, I'm at a point now where I just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a pretty profound thing happen to me. I pray for her every night.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I used to pray over her all the time was like, why? Like, why? I kept asking why. And I'll never forget it because I heard you would have died. And that was all I heard. And it scared me because I was like, well, how would I have died? Like, um, my mom had a history of attempting suicide, and I'm thinking, wow, I've lived this long without ever, even considering suicide. And so I continued, to pray over every night. And then I heard the voice of God again. I know it was his voice, like, and it was, I never said you would kill yourself. It was through your health. And it was like a light bulb lit up for me. Is like, and it wasn't saying like this is why she has it, but stop asking why, don't worry about it, and just focus on helping her. And so that actually did completely shift my perspective. But yeah, early on, there was a lot of time where I felt like I had to be the one that was like just, you know, pretending to be positive and
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine, when I have no clue, what's going to work, what's not going to work, where's she going to be in a year.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really hard when she was going to school because we would get the notes every day of how the day went.
Mm-hmm.
And, we know what her issues are, right? We
Yeah.
know when she gets frustrated, we know she bites, she had a hard time walking down the hallway. So when you get the recap of like all the negative things that she's doing, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, we already know she's doing this. Can you give us some more positive things? So like, I felt like I had to be like over the top then to like
Yeah.
reinforce, what the good things are. But, um, it was hard early on, but I feel like after that experience, I'm like, I'm just grateful for her.
Hmm.
And I I really haven't had like a down moment recently. I'm sure it will come again at
Yeah.
some point, right? She's going to be 6, and like as those years start getting up and you're not hitting the milestones that you had in your mind planned out,
Hmm.
I am sure it will hit me again. But I'll just try to keep reminding myself of like the good things that have come out of it.
Sure, absolutely. I was working with a mom not too long ago, and she kind of had one of those profound moments you're talking about. It completely changed the way I kind of speak to parents because she was thinking and praying also, but then she just had a moment of, I don't know if she was speaking with her pastor or what it is, but it's just like, your child would have had autism no matter what. Coming into this world, that was God's plan. God made them that way because that's how he wanted to, which means they're perfect. They're what he wanted. But also, he doesn't make just anybody their mom. He's going to put the mom that's perfect for them, that can give them the best chance of success. And you were handpicked for that. And once she kind of thought of it that way and really kind of realized that, it turned into this just almost, she's proud of it. She's proud that she gets to be the mom to this amazing child that she has, but also that out of everybody in the world, God picked her because she has the ability, she has the patience, she has the encouragement, the lovingness to support this very individualized person. So those profound moments, whether it be with God or be with anyone else, they're awesome to hear about. And so cool to hear yours as well. And I know with you and your wife and all these kids, how was the dynamic between you two? I know it can cause a lot of stress because you could have completely two different views on how things should be handled, which I know can cause a lot of rifts a lot of the times, which can lead to more arguments and things like that. How have you guys kind of navigated that as a team?
And it was really hard early on because I think my approach is more, let's try one thing and see what works
Mm.
and then move forward. I think she would like to see changes and improvements very fast. So I feel like we need to measure and watch, and she wants to, her big thing is like, we're not doing enough. We're not doing
Hmm.
enough. So that was really hard. A good example is like with supplements, right? So you might not do medication, but I'm not convinced that giving a kid 30 supplements a day is great for them either,
Hmm.
because you have no idea what the combination of those supplements are doing. And I think that's a popular thing in the autism community with especially people like me who maybe look at alternative health solutions. And there's downsides to that too, right? So um, there were periods of time where we were giving her like a ton of supplements a day, and I'm like, I don't agree with this. I have
Hmm.
no idea what it's doing to her body. She can't communicate with us, and I think a lot of it's just talking through and then finding the right third party specialist has been really important for us. So like, do they hear both of our concerns, and can they help maybe come up with a plan
Yeah,
that meets both of where we want to go?
sure.
Uh, but it's gotten way better. I mean, she has improved a lot. So like we make sure we go out to dinner together. Try to do it at least once a week. Our oldest can watch her now.
Hmm.
2 years ago, that was not something we would have put on our kids to babysit just because of the meltdowns and everything else. But it's just being intentional about spending
Hmm.
time together and trying to talk through things. But I mean, we still don't always align on everything even today. So it is hard, right? I think she always is pushing to do more,
Yeah,
and I'm just methodical in nature. So
sure.
I like to do one thing. Okay, what are we seeing? Okay,
Hmm.
let's add this in or take this out.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is y'all realize you're a team. You're not one-upping each other. You're not sabotaging each other. You got one goal and you're going to get there eventually. I feel like if parents just maintain the thought of this is our shared end goal, we're going to take different routes to get there, but we just got to support each other in getting there. We're not trying to be the person in control. We're not trying to one up each other. I have seen a lot of times where it almost turns into a competition. Who do they love more, me or you, or who do they respond? What strategies are they responding to more? And I feel like that's very detrimental. It's if your way works better than mine, that's amazing. We found something that worked. Let's just scrap what I said and let's go with your way. And that's amazing. You guys kind of feel like that too. And but I would love to talk also about your book, which I think has the coolest title ever, because I love simplicity. And I think the title of your book, Autism Sucks, is just getting down to it, because people are so afraid to say it's difficult or it's hard or I wish it wasn't part of it, because then you're like, oh, well, you don't like the identity of so-and-so. And it's tough. If someone could choose whether they would be on the spectrum or not be on the spectrum, I think 90% or more would pick one route other than the other. But so what, I know you kind of hit on it a little bit, what led you to wanting to share your stories and your things you've gone through, and also what brought you to that title, or would just love to hear more about that.
Yeah, the title is interesting. I had come up with a couple different titles, and I'm like, I felt like this was a really I wanted to be authentic. That was the biggest thing. Like, I'm not sugarcoating anything. Like, if people hate it, that's fine. But I'll never forget, like, I was reading about just like how to, talk about your book before it comes out. So I remember going on Reddit and just kind of sharing, hey, I'm writing this book, blah, blah, blah. Autism sucks, finding hope in the chaos. And it was so discouraging because people were like, you hate your kid.
Yeah.
You're an awful parent. And I'm like, clearly, like, they've never lived my experience.
Exactly.
And so initially I really wrote it. I'm like, here's things that we did that showed immediate improvement, right? Like, not even like, I didn't want to have any gray areas, like, because I also have gotten frustrated. As much as I love podcasts and Instagram, I think, for finding out information, I also get frustrated with people just trying to monetize autism and healing. Like, there's so much of it. And I don't think a spray doing it 3 times a day, just a spray, is healing autism.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be proven wrong there. So if anyone has a spray that does it, I would love to be proven wrong. But that stuff drives me crazy. So I really wanted to share initially, like, with parents, especially parents that are maybe new to it, here's what we did and here's what helped. I'm not saying it will help you, but, like, I'm not making any money off selling grounding mattress pads or, a sauna, or CBD oil. Like, I have no tie to it, but, like, these are things that we did, and, like, it's not even up for question that it had an immediate impact. So that was really the initial thought behind writing it. And then it did take a little bit of a different turn as I was writing it, because I'm like, wow, like, there's really good things that have come out of this for my family. Like, I can tell you, I'm definitely a better dad because of it. I'm a better person, better husband. I've seen my kids grow in ways I never thought they would grow. Like, my one daughter, we got to know from the school just that she purposely goes and becomes friends with kids that are special needs in younger grades now, and, like, wants to hang out with them. And I just don't think she would have done that without having, our daughter in our life. So it kind of evolved into, not only trying to help parents. My goal when I first started was, if one parent could read it and start getting more sleep, like, I'm good. I don't need anything else. But then it was also maybe just letting parents that are new to it know that there are good things that come out of it. I talk about the I love you because I feel like a lot of parents want to hear I love you, and to be able to hear it and then say, you know what, like, no, like, it's awesome to hear it, but the way your kid is showing you they love you is so much better. So don't let that be something that you're because I had that mistake of, like, being tied to that outcome, and then that outcome wasn't close to what I got from her up to that point.
I like the fact that it is unscripted, it is raw, it's not glamorizing autism, kind of like what we see in media these days on Netflix with shows like Love on the Spectrum, which are amazing. They give voices to the population, they give education to an extent, but it shows all the heartwarming and the funny and the things that can go on with that population, but they don't see quite the struggles that families can go through. So I love things like your book that keeps it kind of like what we do on the show, where we keep it unfiltered. We don't just want to talk about the good things. We love hearing about people's successes, but we want to hear about people's struggles, because, like, kind of like what your hope is, that people relate to it. People can take something home from it, which is amazing. And we love that. And I think that it's very unique, your book and your story, because again, yes, you're showing everything that's helped your family, but also kind of how'd you find it? You had to struggle first. You had to get fed up and frustrated. And I think that's so cool. What kind of, and you can even pick from your book too, when you talk about this too, what kind of advice, just if you had to pick just the key things to talk to parents with just a single kid or a large family like yours, what are kind of like the hit on points that you would hope they could take from, or just advice you'd like to give?
Yeah, I think the big thing is like you're the parent, you know what's best for your
Mm-hmm.
child. So you need to do your own research and really understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's across the board, whether it's, in the medical field or with the school, and make sure you're being heard, right? Like, don't just, a big example for me too was like with the school and her IEP, you know, their goals were very different from our
Mm-hmm.
goals. So we had to make sure they understood, like, I don't care if she plays with a toy the right way. Like that's not my goal for her. So we need to make sure our goals are aligned there and not being afraid to share that and really make sure they're aligned with what you see as success.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, research everything. There's so many great tools out there, like again, podcasts, um, and social media. Like there's good things that come out of it. Um, you know, looking in podcasts for like just brain discussion, gut health, autism, ADHD, like
Mm-hmm.
you can always pick up a nugget from them. And my advice is like keep an open mind, listen, and then you kind of decide what's best for you. Um, yeah. The other thing is be positive and keep track. Like have goals, but even write down the wins, like track the wins over time, because I think it's easy to forget. When I look back to where we are now versus where we were 3 years ago, we're not, again, maybe where we wanted to be by now, but we're in a drastically different place. We're getting sleep every night.
Mm-hmm.
She's not biting everything. She sits at the table with us at dinner. And, those are things that weren't reality for me 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So writing things down and just remembering where you were and then what accomplishments or wins you've seen are so important. And again, like we talked about earlier, like small things can still be huge, and don't be afraid to celebrate that or get excited about that.
Sure. I think that's so cool. I never thought about documenting everything, just so you can, when a huge success comes along, you can look back to see how far you've come. I think that's amazing advice. That's definitely something I might start talking to parents too about, just because it's so hard when you're so wrapped up in the end goal. It's so hard to remember where you were at one point, because you could have made 50% success and not even know it, because you're so focused on that perfection, that end goal to get them where they need to be, and you forget about where they were refusing to come out of their room for breakfast, but now they're sitting with you at the table. They might not be making it through 8 hours of school, but they're sitting with you having breakfast with you. And to remember that, I think that's pretty amazing. And I'm so glad you shared that with us, Paul. And and just having people like you on, to where it's such firsthand experience. And your situation's different, because you just got an entire crowd that you're taking care of too. Because I mean, like I said, it's amazing that you're doing so much for your youngest, but being a dad and a great dad to 7 other kids too at the same time, man, that's just, I take my hat off to you and your wife, being able to be that high level parent to 7 kids, and also one that just is a little different, a little quirky, needs a little extra time for you to devote to. And that's amazing. And I do hope that you and your wife realize how impressive that is, and just how proud you guys should be of it. Because when I talk to parents, it is that it's okay to be humble. And then there's sometimes where you just kind of need to be like, we kind of kill it sometimes. We are super parents sometimes. And it's okay to admit that, because we're all thinking it. So it's okay for you guys to say too, that y'all are rock stars and do a lot of things that probably 99% of the parent population couldn't do. And just take time to sit back and realize, yes, we're so proud of our child, but you got to be proud of yourselves too, and proud of each other. Because I mean, that's a huge deal, what you guys do. And y'all should be very, very proud of yourselves and your other kids too, because it really does take a village. And it sounds like you got a really great one at home.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot. So thank you. I really appreciate
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show. We have enjoyed having you here. And listeners, you can find links to Autism Sucks on the website. We're going to put it up there because I love that on our website, allabilitiesnofilter.com. Links to all of our episodes, including this amazing one with Paul. His socials will be there too, to go and connect and look for any other amazing resources as well. But Paul, thank you again so much for coming on. Your story's amazing. Hope we stay in touch and everything. But I know you're just giving so many great resources to our listeners and everyone else that might be going through something similar you're going through. So we appreciate you again.
Thank you so much.
All right, listeners. Well, again, don't forget, like, subscribe, go follow us everywhere you can, Instagram, but definitely go check us out on our website as well, where you can find all of our amazing content and strategies that we want to provide. But until then, listeners, we can't wait for our next unfiltered conversation. Thanks, guys.